Hello and welcome to another of Mrs. Patnell's literacy lessons. So we have been looking at The Incredible Book Eating Boy for last week. We looked at the character of Henry and he wrote to us very handily because he knew we were very good at healthy eating, and he asked for our advice on what he should eat now that he's not eating books anymore. So in the classroom we wrote nice letters to Henry and we're going to post those today. At home, hopefully you've got round to writing your letter to Henry, and you can pop that in the poster as well. If you want to bring it back into school with you when you come back in, we can post it then if you like. So this week we are moving on, still with The Incredible Book Eating Boy, and we are looking at stories having starts, middles and endings. Okay, all stories have a start, then a middle, then an end. You can almost cut stories into 3 slices, okay, particularly picture book stories. So we are going to think about the start, the middle and the end in The Incredible Book Eating Boy, and then we're just going to go on to think more about our character that I asked you to think about on the lesson before this one. Okay, so our start, I'm going to write start up here. Okay, our start, and this R sound will make more sense when you have one of our phonics lessons this week. So start. In The Book Eating Boy, what happens to begin with? What happens? We meet Henry, and by accident he licks a book, doesn't he? Okay, so we meet Henry, so let's draw Henry here. He has his little nose. Oh, my pen's not quite behaving. He has just a little bit of hair on his head. So we meet Henry, there he is. And he accidentally licks a book while he's looking at the cat one day, doesn't he? So let's draw a picture of his tongue. And it's licking a book here. Okay, so he accidentally licks a book. There he is. Let's draw his mouth as well here, shall we? There we are. There's his eye. So he accidentally licks a book when he's looking at the cat. And then he tries one thing, one small thing. It's one word, isn't it? Okay, so he eats just one word. So I'm going to draw like he's torn out one little word here. What word should we think he's eaten? I think maybe he's eaten the word cat. Okay, so let's write cat on there. So he's eaten one word, but then he doesn't stop there. He ends up eating a whole sentence. So let's draw a sentence. So a sentence is a collection of words that make sense together. So let's say that he eats the sentence, cats are soft. Okay? They are soft when you stroke them. I'm going to give it a full stop to say it's the end of a sentence. So he eats one word, he eats a sentence, he eats a whole page. So I'm going to draw a whole page here, and there's lots of words on that page, but he doesn't stop there, does he? One word, one sentence, a whole page, and then a whole book. A whole book. So I'm going to draw a whole book here now. There's a title on the front, there's the author. He eats all of those things. Yeah, so that's the start of our book, basically. If we took the first chunk and said, this is the start, this is how the book begins, it would be meeting Henry and finding out that quite by accident he licked a book. And then he decided to eat a word, a sentence, a page, and then a whole book. And that's pretty much how our book starts, isn't it? So that's the start. I'm going to draw a line here because it's like we're cutting the book into 3 bits. And then we're going to go for the middle. My pen really isn't liking this paper. Okay, so we're going to go for the middle now. What happens in the middle of the book? We've met Henry. He starts eating books. What happens when he eats the books? Does it go wrong? Does it go well? It goes well to begin with, doesn't it? Yes, he likes the taste of them. And what happens in his mind? He becomes very clever indeed, doesn't he? So I'm going to draw Henry here with his little nose and his mouth. There he is. The line, he's got a little bit of hair on there. Doesn't quite look like Henry in the book, but you know, there is Henry. And he starts to say some very clever things. So what kind of clever number sentence can we give him? He's got a huge kind of equation in the book, but we're going to go with, should we go with 5 and 5 equals 5 add 5 equals 10. So let's give him that incredibly clever sentence. Number sentence he's saying. He gets super clever, okay? He gets cleverer than his teacher, cleverer than his dad because he helps him with the crossword. He's on that game show and he gets 5,367 points. So he gets extremely clever. But what happens next? Does it stay all good? No, it goes a bit wrong, doesn't it? Yes. So he starts eating too many books. In fact, he starts eating about 3 or 4 at a time, doesn't he? So let's draw a picture of 3 or 4 books here. 3 or 4 books at a time. And another one. There we go. Right. So there's my pages. 3 or 4 books at a time. He starts to be a bit sick, doesn't he? Yes, I'm going to draw Henry here with his mouth. And he's being a bit sick. Okay, and what happens about his being smart? Does he stay smart? No, he starts saying crazy things, doesn't he? Like 2 + 6 = elephant. So I'm going to draw him here. So this goes round to here, which goes round to here, which goes round to him saying all sorts of silly things. So here he is. Here's our Henry. And he starts saying in his speech bubble, 2 + 6 = I'm going to run out of room here, elephant. It's going to have to burst out of my speech bubble. I wonder if my other pen's any better than this one. Let's have a look. Yes, it is. Here we go. So 2 + 6 = elephant. Crazy. I know. He's no longer as smart as he once was. In fact, he can't even have a conversation. Just a lot of nonsense comes out of his mouth. So that is the middle of our book, okay? So it all goes good. He's very clever. He's winning game shows. Then he starts to eat 4 books at a time. He starts to be sick. He starts to say nonsense out of his mouth. 2 + 6 = elephant. So then we move to the end of the book. So we've cut our book into 1, 2, 3 sections, start, middle and end. What happens at the end of the book? He, got to think now, he decides, and lots of people tell him that he should stop eating books. The doctor tells him he should stop eating books. And his dad tells him, and the librarian tells him how much he has to pay. So I'm going to put it here in a speech bubble. No more books. No more books. So that's everybody telling him no more books. Dad, doctor, librarian. So then he stops eating books, doesn't he? And what does he do with books instead? He reads them. And he thinks they're great. So I'm going to draw him here as if he's reading this book instead of eating it. There's some pages. And here is Henry over the top. His little bit of hair and his nose. And he's reading the book instead. So he still thinks he's going to become the smartest person on earth, but it just might take a little bit longer by reading the books. So that's basically the Incredible Book Eating Boy cut into 3 sections. The start, the middle and the end, okay? We're going to use this plan again for the rest of the week to help us understand how to create a start, middle and end for our story. Now, if you're at home, I don't want you to have to write this story yourself because writing a whole story would be exhausting at this point in your lives. So instead, you could get mums and dads or whoever's at home learning with you to listen to your story and write it down for you. So you would be saying it and they would be writing down your story. A bit like we were doing in class when we used to write stories and act them out together. Okay, so a bit like that. You can act it out if you want to, but it's a bit like when you'd sit with an adult and tell them your story. But I want you to be thinking about a start, a middle and an end. Now our story is going to follow a similar path to the story of Henry, the Incredible Book Eating Boy. So we're going to use this particular story and its path with his start, middle and end to help us write our own. But we'll start doing that tomorrow. The one other thing I want to do now, and I'm going to just whiz this over and do it on the other side, is I want to think about creating our character first of all. So we'll start writing our story tomorrow, but before that, I want to think about what our character's going to be like. So we've got Henry in The Incredible Book-Eating Boy, but what's our own character going to be like? We're going to base it on the story, so it's going to be someone who eats too much of something they shouldn't, then it goes well, then it goes not so well, and then there's a happy ending, okay? So that's how our story is going to work, but it's going to be following the story, so borrowing ideas from The Incredible Book-Eating Boy, as all good writers do, but using our own character and our own particular parts of the story. So we need to think about what our character is going to be like. Are they going to be a boy or a girl, or are they going to be an animal? There's always lots of animals in books, so perhaps they could be an animal. So you've got to think about your own one. Now I'm going to do one with you here now on camera that's come out of my imagination, just to give you an idea of how to do it, but you can think of your own one at home, okay? So not Henry, and not the one that we're about to come up with here, but your own character, all right? So after this lesson, I want you to sit down with a piece of paper and draw a plan for your own character. So draw a picture of your character. It would be great if in a minute, like I'm going to, if you could label your character, okay? Right. So I'm thinking that my character is going to be a boy, okay? So I'm going to have a boy, and he's going to be called, I'm going to call him, I can't think of a name, isn't it? I'm really trying to think of a name. I'm going to call him Tyler, okay? So my boy is called Tyler. So I'm going to start drawing him. I'm going to write up here first of all that Tyler is his name. This pen is running out. So here is Tyler, okay? And he's going to be, I think he's probably about your age, maybe 5 or 6 I'm going to make him. So he's going to have a cute little face, here he is. And he's got a little smirk here like this, and little cheekbones, and he's got a little nose, and big set of eyes, there he is, big eyes there. There he is. There's Tyler. Let's give him, curly hair, I think. So I'm going to go round and round like this for Tyler. He's got lots of great curly hair on top of his head like that. Let's give him a little bit round there as well. There you go, Tyler. Springing out of his head a little bit here like this. There we are. He's got kind of crazy hair. I'm going to give him a little neck. And I'm going to put him in a kind of PE kit. Alright, so he's going to have a little PE kit going on. There we are, he's got quite big hands as Tyler. Okay, and a little pair of PE shorts here. And a couple of little skinny legs hanging out the bottom. There we go. And he's wearing running trainers. He's a bit sporty, is Tyler. Right, okay. So here is Tyler. So this is what my character is going to look like. So after this lesson, you will draw your character on a piece of paper. Make him nice and big. Make him so you can see him really well on a nice big bit of paper. Now I'm just going to label him. So I've called him Tyler. I'm going to draw a line just to say this is Tyler. This is my label. It's Tyler. I might want to describe him a little bit, okay? So when I start my story, I might not just want to say there was once someone called Tyler. I might want to say there was once a boy with red curly hair. I know it's not red in this picture because I haven't got any good colouring pens, but I'm going to put that he's got red curly hair. So let's label red curly hair. So that's my label. That's going to remind me that when I write my story, I don't just want to say, there was once a boy called Tyler. I want to describe him. There was once a boy with red curly hair called Tyler. Sounds much more interesting. All of a sudden, whoever's reading your story can picture someone with red curly hair. They've got a little picture in their mind of what he looks like. Okay, I'm going to say that he is quite short, okay? So I'm going to put a little label here. He's got quite short legs, so that makes him quite short. So we've got short legs, okay? And this is quite important to my story because I think that Tyler wants to be a fast runner, but he's only got short little legs, so at the moment he can't run overly fast with his short little legs, okay? And he's, let's say, what colour should his eyes be? I could always put that in as well, couldn't I? We read a book about Goldilocks earlier on today, and it told us all about the colour of her eyes. So I think he's going to have green eyes, red hair and green eyes. There you go, Tyler, you've got green eyes. And I think he's got a cheeky grin. So I'm going to label, put a line to his mouth and put a cheeky he's got a cheeky grin. Okay, I think that's pretty good. We know it's Tyler. We know he's got red curly hair. He's got green eyes and a cheeky grin and short legs. I think this is a good way to describe my character, Tyler. I can picture him now. If I'd have just said there was once a boy called Tyler, you could have pictured someone completely different to me. Whereas now I'm going to say there was once a boy with red curly hair and green eyes and a cheeky grin. His name was Tyler. Ta-da! He's come alive. He's jumped off the page. We know what he looks like. We can also mention he had very short legs, so he couldn't run very fast. Okay? So that could be the very start of my story when I introduce Tyler. And my plan will remind me what I want to say when I start telling my story tomorrow. Right, I think that's as far as I need you to go. All right, so we've looked at the start, middle and end of The Incredible Book Eating Boy. We're going to use that plan on the other side to help us guide us through our start, middle and end of our story. We will tackle each section each day and write a little bit each day, or tell your adult a little bit each day for them to write for you until we get to the end of the week and we have our whole story. Okay, so make sure you get your plan today of your character. Remember, it doesn't have to be a human being, it could be an animal, all right? But I also want you to remember that at the end of the other video, I did the little clip on how to make your puppet. Consider that you'll be making a puppet of your character on Friday. So you don't want to make it too much of a tricky animal if you're going to go for an animal, because you've got to try and make a puppet of the animal. So that might sway your decision a little bit, I'm not sure, okay? So by the end of the week, I should have made Tyler for my puppet. So there's your character. You think of your own one. Can I see them on tapestry? I'm very excited to meet your characters before your story begins. And I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.